Okay, so let me know if you can hear me. Hi Andy, can you hear me okay? I was I had a bit of a technical problem. I went to test my audio to check if it was happening earlier. Okay, so let me know if you can hear me. Okay, I went to check my audio to see if it was working okay, and it ended up like live streaming earlier, and then I tried to get it off, and I think it just removed the link altogether. So it's a bit of a technical snag, but I'm starting now. You can hear me and see me fine. That's great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what my goals were for last month and my goals are for next month coming up, and a bit about immersion and stuff like that. I'm aiming to keep this video quite short, so I'm probably looking at no more than half an hour really. So we get started. I'm just going to move me down into the bottom right corner a little bit so you can see my screen. So I had 2 goals for last month. So my first goal was to read The Linguist by Steve Kaufman, and the next one was to watch a TEDx talk. So first of all, The Linguist. This is the book I'm talking about, and it's split into 63 chapters. But the thing that I like about this is that all of the chapters are very, very short. There's free audio with it. There's lots and lots of repetition built into the book. So I think, and also it's non-fiction, so it's more direct message as opposed to all the flowery and poetic language they use in fiction books. So if you're looking for a first book, this one's great, and it's got some great insights, and Steve's stories are really, really interesting. I can definitely relate to a lot of the parts he went to, especially in the first bit, in the bibliography. So that was really good. I set off originally that was going to take up most of the month, but I kind of got a bit carried away, so I finished the book in just under 20 days. So yeah, I finished that a bit early, and that's why I moved on to my goal for next month a bit earlier. So the other thing that I was planning on going through is let's talk how to learn a language and contribute to society. So I thought that sounds very interesting, especially going in the theme of language learning, so I went with that, and it turned out just to be almost a sales pitch for Duolingo, but the talk was still interesting, so yeah, that's fine. So I went for that. So overall, how it went, I think it went pretty well. To be honest, Steve's book towards the end, in something like Spanish at least, because of the repetition, it got quite easy towards the end, so I don't really feel like I was pushing as hard as perhaps I should have. So for that reason, the month coming in now, I'm looking at getting into some fiction books with a little bit harder. So there's a really famous Colombian author called Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and he's a Nobel Prize winning author for it was 100 Years of Solitude, and this one, Leaf Storm, is the English title, is kind of like the testing ground for a lot of the themes used in his Nobel Prize winning novels. So it's set in the same place, Macondo. It's got some of the same kind of themes and stuff like that, and quite a lot of similar language. So I figured this would be a really good entry level way to kind of build myself up to the big one. So I know it's only the 2nd of February, but because I finished The Linguist earlier, I started going through this a lot earlier. So I've read 8 chapters out of 11, so I've almost finished this already. I'm going through 1 section a day, so I'm going to show you really how I split up my goals in a second. 1 section a day, because on Link, if you import something that's over, I think, 4,000 words, then it splits up into little chunks. So you can see here, chapter 11 brackets 1, 2 and 3. So I'm going through one of these. I won't go through all of chapter 11, I'll go through 1 section per day, which is a good pace. And I've downloaded the audio, kind of used OBS to record it on my computer and then just import it into Link. And this is actually a lot harder than The Linguist. I'm actually struggling quite a lot going through this because there's a very lot of descriptive language and not a lot of not very direct language. So I think in most fiction it's very flowery, it's very over the top, it's trying to be as clever as it can. So I'm finding that this so far is probably a lot harder than I bargained for, because this is a novella, so it's not even a full-length novel. It's a short one, and it's still quite hard. But luckily, the chapters are short, so I'm getting the repetition in, which is helping a lot. So, this is what I was doing in my immersion time. So, one of the main things I try to do is basically immerse myself in the language as much as possible. So, I've been through Money Heist Season 2, the Cathedral on the Sea, at the Cathedral of the Sea, and this is set in like 1312 Barcelona, and it's a little bit like Game of Thrones, but there's no fantasy. It's a bit more darker than that. It's 8 episodes long, and I finished it yesterday. And for someone learning Spanish, I mean, this show's absolutely brilliant. When I finished the Casa de Papel, I thought I wouldn't find a series as good as it in Spanish, at least not for a while, but the Cathedral de Mar is almost as good, if not better. And I found out they have books. It's based off a book, and it's got a whole series, so maybe that's something for the future. And then I watched some films, The Laws of Thermodynamics, which is about a physicist who tries to apply the laws of thermodynamics to love. Obviously goes very badly. Narcos, The Club of Good Infielders, I'm not sure quite how to translate that, but it's kind of a club of men who join this kind of group to try and go sleep with women even though they're all married, which is it's kind of a comedy sort of thing. And then I played a lot of video games as well, so South Park game, that's really, really good. It's quite crude language, but yeah. So I finished South Park, that was really good, and I finished Fallout. So my immersion in general was going really good, and I found since I finished The Linguist, having read my first book, I've started to understand a significantly large amount of my immersion now. So I'm probably understanding more than I'm not understanding at this point, which is huge, huge motivation, huge momentum for me going forward. So I'm going to try and keep up the immersion as we go forward. So if anyone has got really good recommendations for Spanish dramas, more so from Barcelona / Spain than South America, but if it's good, I'll watch it either way. I'd appreciate that massively. So my upcoming goals, and this is, you can probably see here, I've been very, very, very specific with how long I'm spending on each thing. So I'm the type of person that likes to micro plan. So when I was playing games as a kid, like RPG games, I'd have my character in my head and I'd try to like micro plan out like what stuff I was going to get, like the armor, weapons and abilities and all that stuff, and try to really like plan out how I can get the best character by the end of it. And I kind of did the same thing with like FIFA, trying to pick the best football team on that, and I think that's just down to my personality type, but I know some people are a bit more free and don't really like all that stuff. So this is what I'm trying to do with languages as well. So I'm kind of planning it down to the day what I'm going to be doing, because there's something called decision fatigue, which basically means without even doing anything, just the act of making decisions in itself can be very taxing, very mentally taxing, and it can use up a lot of your energy. And if you don't kind of set things in stone beforehand what you're going to do, what you can end up doing is spending more time and energy deciding what to do than actually doing it. So say you carve out half an hour, you might spend the first 30 minutes jumping around websites not really knowing what you're doing. So I think at least knowing what you're going to do the day before exactly do you do it. So if you just like, even if it's like February, I'm reading this book, I'm going to read 1 chapter a day, so I'm just going to keep on going until I finish the book, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be quite as planned out as this, but I thought I'd show you anyway, because this is how I like to operate. So Leaf Storm, if I'm going with 1 section a day, I'd finish that on the 7th of February. When I finish a big book, I like to do something different as a break, so I like to have a YouTube video as a break in between, just something to before jumping into the next big thing. So if I go onto my YouTube playlist here, I already have some stuff I imported earlier. So I'm focusing on history because of something that you'll see in a minute, because one of the next books I'm going to read is going to be around history. So the first one is History of Europe, sorry. And I'm going to go through all of Leafstorm, finish that, spend one day going through that video. It's about 10 minutes long. And then I'm going to read Sapiens. This is a book actually recommended to me by my brother. And I've had a quick look at chapter 1. I've imported this into Link along with 100 Years of Solitude. So here's Sapiens right here. It's 20 chapters. It's very, very long, and it has a lot of unknown words in it. 10,000 unknown words you can see there. But the thing is, because it's non-fiction, they're saying the message very direct. And if you go into here, you can see that because quite a lot of the words, at least from chapter 1, were scientific, then because English scientific words and Spanish both come from Latin, like this, molecules, atoms, etc., organisms, then you can guess really easily what they mean. So the plan is, this is going to be really interesting, I think. So I'm going to go through this, try and raise my overall total known words count, and then that should give me the best possible chance to kind of attack 100 Years of Solitude with kind of everything I've got, and just see if I can get through that. So basically, if I go back to the overall course, I've 37 days for this book, Sapiens, and you might be wondering where I got 37 days from. It seems oddly specific. Well, it's 20 chapters long. If you look in Link, it's split into 82 lessons, because if you import something over 4,000 words, it splits it up. So I'm going to go through 2 of these a day. So you might be thinking I can't add up now, but if you just bear with me a second, everything that when you split a lesson up into multiple chapters, inevitably the last one's going to be the shortest. So this is the 5th section of chapter 4, and this, I basically went through and said anything that has less than 100 known words, I'm just going to lump in with the previous section. So for example, this section 4 and 5 of chapter 3 I'll do in one go, so I don't, so I'm actually reading an even amount, or more or less an even amount. So I'm going to go through 2 a day. I calculate that's 37 days. I did a similar thing for 100 Years of Solitude and planned it out as 36 days. And then to break up this, I'm going to go over the history of feminism here. So all in all, when I finish Leafstorm on the 7th of February, then it's going to be a total of 75 days for me to go through these next 2 books. If everything goes to plan, I'll be finished by the 24th of April. So when I originally set off to learn Spanish, I said I was going to give myself 6 months to reassess where I am, and that would be at the end of April. So I have a buffer section of 6 days here, to give a little bit of wiggle room should I'm not quite doing everything. So sorry I missed some of your message, Andy. I'm just going to read through it now. Do you like the old Merlin TV series? Netflix in the US has it dubbed in Spanish. I've not seen Merlin. I pretend to prefer original shows in Spanish for the reason that if you go to Netflix and it's in the original language, then that means the subtitles are closed captions, which means they're more or less exactly the same as what's being said. So for my level at the moment, I want accurate subtitles. I feel that going for stuff originally in Spanish with CC is the best way to do it. But that's good to know. I have actually looked into watching Merlin before, so maybe that's something I'll watch next. I'm like that too. Not day to day as much as the order I take courses, resources in. Yeah, I think it's good to kind of have at least a rough idea of a roadmap. So like, say, if I want to be conversational or start getting good conversation in Spanish after 3 months, I can say 1 month with this beginner's course, 1 month with this intermediate course, 1 month with this easy book / speaking a lot, and then they can try and get you up to that level. So that's quite cool. Link doesn't calculate unknown words correctly. If the same unknown word appears in every chapter, it gets counted every time and summed into the total for the course / book. I didn't know that, which is probably why it says that the amount of unknown words is so high, because I was thinking, I mean, my known word now on Link, which I'm quite happy with how it's going. I'm on 8,000 words, which I achieved this morning, and I've been going for about 3 months. So that's almost 3,000 words a month. And when I looked at Sapiens and 100 Years of Solitude, they each had like 10,000 unknown words, which is just crazy high. So that's good to know. Another thing that I actually kind of was a bit suspicious by is when I went onto my lessons and I had stuff that I'd already completed. So the linguist, I've read all of it, looked up all the unknown words, 0% unknown words, but apparently there's still 4 new words, which doesn't make any sense because I've already been through it. So I am aware that Link doesn't count them 100% accurately, but I at least hope that it's a good enough of an indicator, at least for me, to try and plan out what I'm going to do next. And even, which is a cool idea, you can actually download subtitles from Netflix, and I imported see here's Money Heist, Mr. Young, and a few other things, to Catalonias, which is a documentary about the referendum that happened in 2017, I think, and this is a movie I was talking about earlier. So I imported these into Link to see which film had the most amount of unknown words, so I could try and figure out which one would be the easiest to watch and have the most chance of understanding. And I think that's a really cool idea for Link. And I know the video I made on Kodi before was a bit complicated in terms of setup, but after I made the video, I unfortunately found a much easier way to to download Netflix subtitles. So there's this website, there's this Google Chrome extension called SubAdub. So you can see it in the right here. So if you literally go onto SubAdub Netflix, it's that one, it's the first one. So then this does 2 things, and especially if you're learning something like Japanese, this is very useful with the Asian script. So if I just click on this one for now, to load. So you can see it gives you the subtitles up here, and you select the one you want, so traditional Chinese, say. Deactivate it in the top, and then when people speak, you have to wait for them to actually speak now. See, like this, you can actually select the text, which lets you copy and paste into a dictionary. So if you're with something like Japanese, you don't have to like write it out on your phone every time. And if you want to download the subtitles with this Google Chrome extension, you just click download subtitles, and it just does the whole thing for you, which is really easy and much easier than Kodi. But the problem is it's kind of a bit of a mess when it downloads it. It's all just in a scroll of text, and if you're downloading an entire series, then it's very slow to do it this way. So I think for downloading multiple episodes, Kodi is still better, but even if you just use it to be able to highlight with your mouse and be able to copy and paste stuff you're looking up in a dictionary, I don't think it pairs well with this. Oh, it does. This is another thing, you can combine it with a pop-up dictionary, and you can hover your mouse above the characters now just to look at words in a matter of seconds from Netflix. So if you want a quick look up, then this is extremely useful, even just for this functionality alone. But for downloading the whole series, I'd still think once Kodi's set up, that's probably quicker. Yeah, I thought I'd show you that quickly. What's it called? SubAdub. Yeah. Tell you what, I'll link it in the chat. Let me just link it in the chat, Andy, and I will send it over. So that's the extension, and it's, you can see here they're doing the same thing. You can see they've got a online dictionary coupled with this, and you can just hover your mouse and look at words like that, which is obviously incredibly useful. Yeah, and the main thing I haven't spoken about yet, which I wanted to, and I'm very excited to, is I'm going to start speaking. So I've already booked my first italki lesson for next Friday on the 8th of February. And and I've got a very, very intensive plan to start speaking. So if I go to my italki website, then I have a Spanish girl at where I work, and she knows I'm learning Spanish, and one of her colleagues from Argentina just left, and she really misses speaking Spanish at work, so she keeps on trying to like say stuff to me. Like she was like, "Cuándo voy a ver esto el próximo capítulo? La Cathedral de Mar." I was like, "When are you gonna watch the next episode of the Cathedral on the Sea?" And I was just like, I really want to reply to you, but I promised my first time actually speaking to someone in Spanish was going to be on Skype. It's going to be recorded. I'm just going to go with just input and see how far I can get with input alone. So you can kind of get a realistic idea of, with no speaking at all and just input, then this is the level you can expect to be after 3 months. So yeah, what I typically do when I start learning a new language, I want to find tutors that are good for me. So I use all the filters to find people that at the right time, from the right country, at the right price range, and I literally just book half-an-hour lessons with a bunch of different people to try and find who I like the best. And then I'll just try a range of people and see how it goes. So I'm starting off with 30 minutes. As you can see here, I'm starting next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Not on Tuesday because there's the language meetup, so I'll probably speak Spanish there. And then Wednesday. So I'm going to try and start speaking very intensively. And hopefully I can find out who I like and who I don't like. And then from there, build a weekly routine and try going about it. So this means in terms of the future videos I'm planning, the next month is going to be heavily focused around speaking. So my next week's video is going to be the things that I normally take into consideration when I'm thinking when do I want to start speaking, and how to prep yourself to get the most out of sessions right from the start. And just a quick spoiler, the main thing you can do to prep yourself is building up your comprehension. So that's what the past 3 months have been about. Yeah, so that's it for today's video. I think there's just nothing else I wanted to say. So yeah, I mean, thanks for commenting. Conversation, even though it's on the same. Oh, I have multiple tutors too. I pick a topic in advance and talk with the same topic to several tutors. That way I get more practice to get better faster, but it's never exactly the same. Yeah, and that's the thing. When I was a beginner in Cantonese and I was repeating, because there's a lot of repetition when you first start speaking. Inevitably there's going to be a lot of repetition because your vocabulary is too small to speak about a wide range of topics. So when you can end up repeating the same conversations with the same tutor over and over and over again, and you're trying to do it 3 or 4 times a week, the thing is, it's kind of, you kind of feel a bit silly really, because you're just there saying the same thing over and over again. But then if you think about it in your daily life in English or your mother tongue, you do tend to talk about the same sorts of things over and over again, just with different people. So say you go into work on Monday, you might see 5 different people and go, "Oh, hey, what's up? How was your weekend? What did you get up to? Oh, I'm good, thanks. Oh yeah, it's a bit chilly outside. Weather in England is shit." All the normal sort of topics you talk about. So what Andy suggested is a great idea, and to be honest, Andy, I got this idea from you to book a wide range of tutors and try to talk about similar topics. So I'm kind of stealing your idea here with the italki and trying to implement it, because I think it sounds like a really good idea, and that way when there is repetition, inevitably, hopefully I won't feel so silly because I'm just saying the same thing with the same person over and over again. So yeah, that's it for today's video. It's a bit of a shame we haven't had as much interaction as the last time, because we have a few people watching, unfortunately not leaving much comments. So thank you, Andy, for your comments. Thank you for those of you who are watching, even if you're not commenting. And if you have any questions or anything you want to ask me next time, then I appreciate every comment. I appreciate every like, every share, all of that stuff, because my channel's really, really small, I know, and it really helps me out. So I appreciate all of you guys watching this video and supporting my channel. and that's it. So you can expect the next month to be focused mostly around speaking with my videos, but I assure you that I'm going to be sticking to this the best I can. So even though the next month to come I'll be talking a lot about speaking, my core focus time is still going to be input, and that's still my focus, because you can't do anything if you don't have the words. And you know, how can you say stuff if you've never heard or read it? As the Dalai Lama says, when you speak you just repeat what you already know, but when you listen you might learn something new. And I think that's a great point to end the stream at. So thanks all for watching, thank you so much, I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.